My studio is more than a place where I create my textile art. It's much more than that. It's where I start each day with a fresh, hot cup of coffee and a favorite book or a magazine. It's a place for me to sit and quietly reflect on my day, my passions, my world. It's a place for me to enjoy the company of my friends while we create together. It's a place where I share my knowledge with others while hopefully inspiring them. And it's also a place I want to share with you. So join me as I head to the studio. The commute to my studio should be less than a minute, but as I pass through the courtyard, I can't help but stop and notice orchids in bloom, the first caladiums coming up, a new pineapple, 2 baby tomatoes, my gator protector on the side door, the burst of color at the front door, an old rusty sewing machine hidden among the plants, and finally, I make it into the studio. As you enter the studio, the first thing you see, which is directly in front of the door, is my gallery wall. I needed a place to showcase some of my small rust art pieces, and this was the perfect location. This was actually a difficult location to use because I didn't want to put a large piece of furniture here and block the door to the bathroom, which is the black door you see over to the right, so the gallery wall was perfect. To create the wall, I covered both sections of the wall with beadboard and painted it white, and then I added these metal shelves, which are actually some metal angle irons that you can buy like at Home Depot or Lowe's, and they come 4 to 6 feet long. I had these left over from a previous project, so I had a friend of mine cut them up into smaller sections, and they worked perfectly. I completed the wall just in time for our Neighborhood's Arts Association studio tour, and as a finishing touch, I added a copy of my artist statement and bio to the wall. To finish off this corner, I added a shelf, which is really nothing more than a hollow core door, and as you'll see throughout the studio tour, I use those a lot. It sits on top of a cabinet, and as you can see, I angled the corner so that it wouldn't impede going into the bathroom. On top of this shelf, I call it my little educational corner, I have a catalog for the John C. Campbell Folk School, where I'm scheduled to teach a class come this summer. And I have also a listing of my class schedule, my business cards, and a few other items. The cabinet down below behind the curtain hides some of my supplies that I use in my art classes that I'm taking at the local college. The black door that you see to the right leads to the bathroom. I built that door and my husband installed it using barn door hardware. Continuing clockwise around the room, I have my first IKEA wardrobe. It's number 1 of 5. This one contains my printmaking supplies, such as my stencils, my screens, and up top here, these are more printmaking supplies, the frames for my Thermofax screens, the vinyl for my silhouette cutters, and other miscellaneous items that relate to printmaking. Next to the IKEA wardrobe, I have 2 sets of lateral file drawers, which are another one of my favorite storage items in the studio. The set on the left holds pots and pans that I use when I'm doing dyeing that requires heat. The one on the right, the top drawer holds all my coffee and tea supplies, and the bottom drawer holds towels and what have you. I also have a microwave in this corner, a small TV that I use mostly for listening to music, and this cabinet above here holds more supplies that I use when I'm doing dyeing that requires heat. Continuing on around, we come to the front door we just came in, and this table here is my print table. It's for when I want to print yardage, and the tabletop is about 32 inches wide by 8 feet long. The cabinet below was a cabinet I found at a thrift store, which I painted white. It was the typical old brown color. And the doors on the bottom that holds my gallon containers of textile ink, and the drawers hold all the supplies or the tools that I use when I'm screen printing large pieces of fabric. Above this table is one of my design/display walls. This wall is made of Homasote that I've covered with white flannel, and I will have a video showing how to make this wall. This one I use primarily as a display space, and on my bigger wall, which you'll see later, I use as a design wall. So I just like having a few of my pieces out available so that I can see them. Now down below there's a 6-drawer dresser that I picked up at a thrift store that I started painting white, but by the time I got around to the drawers I was sick of painting, so one day they will get painted. The drawers on the left hold my polymer clay supplies, and the drawers on the right hold my soy wax batik supplies. At the end of the dresser you see this vertical section of wall, this little small section, which is again a hollow core door. And I put this here because I wanted to have a little bit more wall space to display some of my work. Plus I wanted to block off part of the back part of the studio. And this really works perfectly because these hollow core doors are really inexpensive. They're lightweight, and I have it attached to the ceiling with some angle irons and to the wall with some angle irons. So it's very secure and it's not going anywhere. Now in the back of this hollow core door wall that I created, I have what I call my I Love Me area. When I was active duty Air Force, if you were lucky enough to have a desk that had some wall space, you always created what we called the I Love Me area. It's where you put all your certificates and your awards and all of that stuff on the wall to show it off so everyone can see it. So this is my civilian version of the I Love Me wall. On this wall I have an article that appeared in our newspaper in 2003 where I was interviewed for my opinion on what independence day meant to me. And this is the photograph that the photographer took, one of the few photos that I really like of me. So I purchased a copy of it and I have that framed. Unfortunately, I cannot use that photo for any publicity purposes. The newspaper won't give me the rights to use it. Also, I have my certificate where I completed the Jane Dunawall Art Cloth Mastery Program. And this is a calendar that I created when I had my custom slipcover business. We used to have a slipcover summit every year, and one year I created the calendar for the summit, so I got to choose which month that I wanted to be in, and I chose to be the October girl. And this is a chair that I slipcovered along with a photo that I had another photographer take that was similar to the one the newspaper took. Also in this area I just have a few things that I like, and some pictures of my daughter when she was a teenager and my grandson. They look so much alike, don't they? Gosh, I love those kids. There's my daughter again. She's our only child, so yeah, I have a lot of pictures of her when she was younger with some friends, and just some other little cute items that I like having around me. So that's my one little section of pretties and cute things. And all of this sits on top of another one of those lateral file drawers. This makes number 3. I have here my Thermofax machine, and on top of that I have some crates where I store my most commonly used books, and the crates are attached to the back wall. Next up I have 2 more of those IKEA wardrobes, so this makes number 2 and 3. And the one on the left stores some fabrics that I plan to use to make clothing items for myself, and also some of my more commonly used printing things like my favorite Thermofax screens and things that I use a lot. I like having them close to the table here. Up top I have some of my books, and the cabinet on the right, that holds my felt, my fusibles, and items that I use to finish off the back of my art quilts, or to finish like those rust panels that you saw at the beginning. Up top, that holds some of my larger screens for screen printing that I can't fit anywhere else. Now we come to the start of my studio, my table. This table's been around for a long time. I had it when I had my custom slipcover business, which I closed in 2014, and it started out much smaller. It was originally a 4x6 table, and every time I moved to a larger space, my husband enlarged the table for me. It's currently 5 feet wide by 12 feet long, and 9 feet of it is padded and covered so that I can use it as an ironing table, as a printing table. I've even slept on the table, and during Hurricane Irma we took refuge in my studio and we slept on the table and under the table. At one point the table was 6 feet wide, but when I moved it into this position, the support pole for the apartment above prevented me from keeping it that wide, so I had to narrow the table to 5 feet. At one end of the table I have a cutting board, and that end of the table, the top opens up, and one day I plan to eventually build a light box under here. Also at this end of the table I have a small dresser, and in the drawers I store some of my favorite small pieces of fabric, and on top I keep my rotary cutting tools. Now back at the top of the table I have a shelf that I put down slightly lower than the level of the table, and this is where I keep all of my irons. I do have quite an iron collection, but I use them for different purposes. And next to the table I have a small dresser with a hutch on top, and this is where I keep all the tools and the supplies that I use at the table, such as my pressing tools, my cutting tools, my hand sewing needles. There's another picture of my daughter when she was a little girl, and everything that I need to use at the table is handy in these drawers or up on the hutch. Well, that's it for part 1 of the studio tour. I hope you've enjoyed this, and if you have, let me know in the comments below what was your favorite part that you've seen so far. And if you have enjoyed it, go ahead and give the video a thumbs up, and while you're at it, subscribe to the channel and hit that bell so you won't miss any new videos I upload. I will be uploading part 2 shortly, so be sure to come back for that. But until then, have a beautiful day.